From the crazy Małgosia to Steve to the frickin' chicken jockey, the Minecraft movie has some fun characters, but they are also very criminal. So in this video, we are gonna sentence these baddies in court, starting with the rejected baddie Małgosia. Małgosia captures Steve and locks him up in the Nether with no trial, no warning, and no way out. She doesn't stop there. She uses his wolf Dennis as leverage, threatening harm if Steve doesn't give her the creation cube. This isn't strategy. It's coercion wrapped in cruelty. Keeping someone trapped without cause isn't just a villain move, it's illegal. Steve isn't a soldier or a threat to her people. He's just a guy who said no. And for that, she turns a peaceful miner into a prisoner, held in the dark, completely powerless. This is false imprisonment, holding someone against their will with no legal authority. In any system that values freedom, that's a serious crime. If caught, Małgosia would face 4 years in prison for false imprisonment, and that's only the beginning. Małgosia doesn't just command the piglins, she terrorizes them. When they fail to find gold, she doesn't punish them or send them home. She threatens to turn them into pork chops, and from the silence that follows, it's clear she already has. This isn't a warning or an empty threat, it's an execution. She kills her own soldiers just for disappointing her. No trial, no mercy, no hesitation. These aren't enemies, they're her people. And she treats them like meat. Killing someone under your command for failing a task is murder. There's no war, no self-defense, no justification. Its power is used purely to destroy. And that makes Małgosia guilty of the highest possible crime. If caught, Małgosia would face a life sentence for murder. And that's still not the worst thing she's done. At one point, Małgosia doesn't ask Steve to give the cube back. She demands it. She traps him in the Nether and tells him straight up, return the creation cube, or his wolf Dennis stays locked up for good. That's not a deal. It's a threat. She's not just holding Steve. She's using someone he loves to force his hand. Coercion like this is a serious offense. If caught, Małgosia would get 5 years in prison just for using fear to control someone's actions. And it doesn't stop there. Dennis is an innocent animal caught in the middle. Locking him up to get to Steve? That's animal cruelty, worth another 1 year in prison. And that's only for one of her many dirty tricks, because next, it gets even darker. In the Nether, Małgosia doesn't lead with respect. She rules with fear. There are no elections, no councils, no choice. The piglins follow her because they're scared, not because they trust her. And when they fail her, she threatens to turn them into pork chops. That's not leadership, it's a dictatorship. She controls everything and answers to no one. The piglins don't get a say, they get orders. Running a government like this isn't just unfair, it's a human rights violation on a massive scale. In any just system, this kind of power grab comes with the highest penalty. If caught, Małgosia would face the death sentence for crimes against her own people. And somehow, her worst crime is still ahead. When Małgosia wants the orb, she doesn't send a message, she sends an army. The piglins invade a peaceful village, attacking unarmed civilians who never stood a chance. No declaration, no defense, just destruction. This isn't a battle, it's an ambush. Homes burn, creatures flee, and the villagers, who had nothing to do with her war, pay the price. That's not just evil, that's a war crime. Under international law, targeting non-combatants in a military strike is one of the most serious crimes possible. And if Małgosia were caught, she'd face the death sentence. But that's not all. During the assault, piglins also fly into the skies over the overworld. No clearance, no regulation, just chaos in the clouds. In our world, flying through restricted airspace without permission comes with a massive fine. For violating airspace during an illegal invasion, Małgosia would owe $100,000 in penalties, and she's still not done breaking the law. Małgosia doesn't just lead piglins, she experiments on them. When her army fails, she unveils her secret weapon, the Great Pig. Not born, but built. It's a massive, stitched-together monster with a brain implant turned into a tool for destruction. This isn't magic, it's mutilation. The Great Pig is the result of illegal experimentation, tampering with life itself to create a living weapon. It's part piglin, part machine, all nightmare. And worst of all, it never had a choice. Creating a creature like this breaks every ethical boundary imaginable. It's not just cruel, it's illegal. Forced experimentation, body modification without consent, and weaponizing a living being. If caught, Małgosia would face a life sentence for illegal piglin experimentation. And the Great Pig was only the beginning. General Chungus was loyal, strong, respected, and one of the only piglins who followed orders without fear. But after failing to stop the heroes, he made one mistake. He came back empty-handed. Małgosia didn't yell, she didn't scold. She crushed him. No trial, no second chances, just death, delivered by the very leader he served. That's not punishment, that's cold-blooded murder. Killing your own general for failing a mission isn't discipline, it's execution without cause. And even in the darkest parts of the Nether, that crosses a line. If caught, Małgosia would face a life sentence for the murder of General Chungus, and her crimes keep piling up. Before the attack on the mansion, Małgosia doesn't strike right away. She waits, watches, tracks every move the heroes make as they search for tools, diamonds, and answers. She follows them across the overworld, quiet, hidden, always one step behind. This isn't strategy, it's stalking. She doesn't confront them, she studies them. She waits until the moment they're weak, then swoops in and steals everything. Following someone without their knowledge across multiple locations with the intent to harm, that's not clever. That's criminal. If caught, Małgosia would face 5 years in prison for stalking with malicious intent. And she's not done watching. She's planning her next move. When the heroes finally get the orb and the Enderman crystal, they think they've won. But Małgosia has been waiting. No warning, no fight. She just shows up, grabs both artifacts, and disappears into the shadows. She doesn't earn them. She doesn't battle for them. She just takes. This isn't petty theft. It's grand larceny. The orb isn't some trinket. It's the most powerful object in the Minecraft world. And Małgosia stealing it puts every realm at risk. In the real world, stealing something that valuable would land you serious time behind bars. If caught, Małgosia would face 25 years in prison for grand larceny. And with power like that in her hands, things only get worse from here. With the orb and crystal in hand, Małgosia doesn't just run, she starts building a portal strong enough to flood the overworld with darkness. Her goal isn't revenge, it's complete control. She wants to wipe out creativity, peace, and everything that makes the overworld what it is. This isn't just a threat, it's world domination. She's not trying to rule with laws. She's trying to destroy and rebuild everything in her own image. No freedom, no resistance, just total power under her command. Trying to take over an entire world by force? That's more than villainy. It's a global crime. If caught, Małgosia would face the death sentence for attempting to destroy and conquer the overworld. And even then, she wouldn't stop unless someone made her. At the end, Małgosia doesn't just attack, she unleashes chaos. With the orb and crystal in her hands, she summons her army for one final strike. Creepers, piglins, and the Great Pig storm the overworld, tearing through villages and burning everything in sight. She doesn't target fighters, she targets everyone. Kids, animals, homes, nothing is off limits. It's destruction for the sake of power. This isn't a battle, it's an invasion, and it violates every rule of war. Launching an attack like this with zero care for innocent lives qualifies as a war crime on the highest level. If caught, Małgosia would face the death sentence for her role in the final assault on the overworld. And by that point, there's no doubt she's not a leader. She's a one-woman apocalypse. In the end, Małgosia loses everything. Her army is gone. Her monster, the Great Pig, is destroyed. The heroes tear down her machines, shatter her portal, and take back the orb. She tries one last attack, lunging at Steve with a hidden blade, but he's ready. He blocks her over and over until she has nothing left. And instead of finishing her off, he walks away. No glory, no revenge, just silence. She's left alone in the ruins of her own empire, surrounded by the wreckage she created. But if this were real, she wouldn't just be left behind. As we close Małgosia's chapter, her list of crimes is longer than a Nether Stronghold hallway. From turning piglins into pork chops to building portals that nearly wiped out the overworld to murdering her own general just for failing once, Małgosia racked up death sentences, life in prison, and enough charges to keep her locked up for eternity. One thing's clear, she wasn't just a villain, she was a one-witch disaster. Henry tries to make a cool impression at school by building a jetpack, and bold sure, but also a complete disaster. During a class project, the jetpack goes haywire, launching out the window and crashing straight into a nearby building where Natalie works. The blast damages the structure and sends everyone into panic mode. He's just a kid, but property destruction is no joke. That earns him 30 days in juvenile detention and a hefty $50,000 in damages, and Henry's adventure is only getting started. After his jetpack mishap, you'd think Henry might lay low, but nope. Worried about being in trouble, he follows Garrett into an abandoned mine, dragging himself deeper into chaos. Problem is, this mine isn't open to the public. It's dangerous, sealed off, and absolutely not meant for field trips. By sneaking in, Henry commits trespassing on restricted property. That lands him 1 year in juvenile detention and a $1,000 fine. And the worst part? He didn't just go alone, he brought company. Henry's got good intentions, but that won't stop the law from stepping in. Things only get worse when Henry, Steve, and Garrett try to escape from the Great Pig deep inside the mine. With creepers closing in and no other option, they decide to trigger a massive chain reaction, detonating every single creeper in the area. The explosion rips through the tunnels, nearly collapsing the entire mine. And while it did help them escape, it also put everyone's lives at serious risk, destroyed the structure, and could have buried the entire team underground. That's not quick thinking, it's reckless endangerment on a huge scale. For putting lives in danger and causing catastrophic damage, Henry earns himself 4 years in juvenile detention. Even in Minecraft, you can't blow things up and expect no consequences. But the next crime takes the cake. Henry might be a kid, but he was involved in the mansion heist. Guided by Steve and working alongside Garrett, Henry infiltrates a highly guarded estate filled with hostile mobs, dark magic, and dangerous traps. This wasn't just some adventure, it was a full-blown break-in. He didn't just sneak in, he made it all the way to the 3rd floor, fought the deadly Enderman, and stole the teleportation sphere right out of the vault. That's burglary, plain and simple. And while he might have had a noble goal, the law doesn't give out free passes just because your heart was in the right place. For breaking, entering, and stealing from a heavily protected property, Henry's looking at 10 years in juvenile detention. Even young heroes have to answer for their crimes. But this is not the end of it. During the mansion heist, Henry finds himself face-to-face with one of the deadliest mobs in the overworld, the Enderman. Alone, outmatched, and cornered in the 3rd floor vault, Henry does what anyone would do. He fights back, and somehow he wins. Now, normally, striking someone down inside their home during a burglary would land you a second-degree murder charge, but here's the twist. This was self-defense. The Enderman is known to attack anyone who makes eye contact, and in this case, Henry was defending his own life. The encounter wasn't premeditated, and he didn't go there to hurt anyone. He just didn't want to get obliterated. So while breaking into the mansion still earns him burglary charges, the fight with the Enderman, that one's on the house. No time, no fine, just survival. As we close Henry's chapter, his record isn't exactly clean. He's facing 10 years for burglary during the mansion heist, 4 years for reckless endangerment in the mine explosion, 1 year and a $1,000 fine for trespassing, and 30 days plus $50,000 in property damage for blowing up part of his school with a rogue jetpack. Sure, he's a kid with good intentions, but the law doesn't give free passes for chaos, no matter how brave or clever you are. But the story isn't over yet. Next up is Garrett. Garrett didn't just show up for a fake family moment, he committed identity fraud. When Henry needed a guardian to talk to the school principal, Garrett stepped in and pretended to be his uncle. Sure, he was trying to help the kid out of trouble, but using a false identity, even for a good reason, is still a crime. For faking his identity, Garrett would be looking at 1 year in prison. Pretending to be someone you're not, especially when it comes to legal guardianship, is a serious offense, even if it came with a good excuse and a pizza bribe. And trust me, this isn't the only time Garrett crossed the legal line. Garrett's quest for answers and maybe treasure leads him straight into an abandoned mine. The problem? He didn't exactly ask for permission. No permit, no clearance, no safety check, just him, Henry, and a glowing cube that looked way too suspicious. That makes this trespassing. And for entering private, dangerous property without authorization, Garrett would be looking at 1 year in prison and a $1,000 fine. Mines aren't playgrounds, and wandering into one, especially dragging a kid along, definitely lands you on the wrong side of the law. And Garrett's list of offenses is just getting warmed up. Later in the movie, Garrett takes part in a full-blown mansion heist. He, Steve, and the others break into a heavily guarded building with 3 floors of deadly defenses, battle-trained villagers, dark mages, and even Enderman himself. That makes this burglary. Even though he didn't steal anything personally, being part of the group that broke in with the intent to take the Enderman crystal counts. For burglary alone, Garrett would be facing 10 years in prison. As we close Garrett's chapter, the charges aren't looking good. He's facing 1 year for identity fraud, another year and a $1,000 fine for trespassing into the mine, and 10 years for the mansion heist. That's 12 years behind bars, and that's not even counting all the close calls, reckless choices, and poor decision-making that didn't make it to court. Garrett may have redeemed himself in the end, but the law doesn't forget the beginning. But the story isn't over yet. Next up is Steve. Steve's story starts with a dream. He always wanted to be the greatest miner in the world, but there was one big problem. The mines were off limits to kids. No entry, no exceptions.
I'm Steve. As a child, I yearned for the mines, but something always got in the way.
Go on! Get out of here!
But did Steve listen? Of course not. After growing up and spending years in a dead-end job, Steve remembers that dream and heads straight back to the mine. The same grumpy old man is still guarding it, but Steve doesn't care. He pushes past him, walks right in, and starts digging like the place belongs to him. This is trespassing, plain and simple. The mine was clearly restricted. Whether you're a kid, an adult, or someone trying to reclaim a lost dream, you can't just walk into someone else's property and start swinging a pickaxe. For sneaking into a place he had no right to be in, Steve would face 1 year in prison and a $1,000 fine. But Steve's journey into trouble is only beginning. After trespassing into the mine and uncovering 2 mysterious cubes, Steve activates a portal to the overworld. Cool, right? But then, without checking in with anyone, getting permits, or even asking a single question, he starts building. And not just a little shack, Steve goes all out. He constructs massive houses, structures, and entire villages using pink sheep wool and whatever else he finds lying around. No blueprints, no safety checks, no permits, just pure blocky chaos.
Anything you can dream about?
This is unauthorized construction, and in the real world, it's a massive legal issue. You can't just waltz into a new dimension and start dropping buildings like it's your personal server. For putting up an entire village without permission, Steve's looking at 90 days in jail and a jaw-dropping $2 million fine to cover environmental damage, zoning violations, and construction without clearance. But that's just the beginning of Steve's build-heavy rule-breaking. Let's keep going. Once Steve enters the overworld, it doesn't take long before danger shows up. Creepers, zombies, skeletons, you name it. They all come crawling out of the dark. And Steve, he grabs his sword and gets to work. No hesitation, no mercy. But here's the thing, this one's not a crime. These mobs were attacking first. They cornered his friends, stormed peaceful villages, and nearly wiped out everyone more than once. Steve wasn't going around starting fights, he was defending himself and others. That's self-defense, plain and simple. In most legal systems, if you're being attacked and you act to protect yourself or someone else, you're in the clear. And considering that the zombies were literally trying to eat people and creepers were blowing up the terrain, Steve's actions were more than justified. So for this one, no jail time, no fines, totally legal. But Steve's adventures are far from over. During a desperate escape deep in the mines, Steve Steve and Garrett find themselves cornered by the Great Pig. They're low on options, the redstone-powered tracks have failed, and danger is closing in fast. So what's the plan? Steve looks around and makes a bold call. Detonate every creeper in the mine. Yes, every single one. The explosion is massive. The mine shakes, debris flies, and the entire area is nearly reduced to rubble. Sure, they survive, but barely. And it's not just them in danger. This place had redstone wiring, old structures, and who knows what kind of buried hazards. Steve's decision might have saved the day, but it also endangered everyone in the blast radius, including innocent players and animals nearby. This is reckless endangerment, and it's no small thing. Setting off a chain explosion just to escape, without any control over the damage, is wildly dangerous. It's recklessness. For blowing up an entire mine full of unstable mobs, explosives, and people, Steve is looking at 4 years in prison for putting lives at risk. And Steve's risky decisions don't stop there. Steve didn't just show up for the mansion heist. He knew the mansion, inside and out. When he's helping the crew break in, he doesn't need a map. He knows the guards, the layout, the traps, and even the rooms where the rarest items are kept. That's not a coincidence. That's experience. Which means this wasn't Steve's first time robbing the place. Yeah, Steve's been here before. This isn't just breaking and entering. This is a coordinated burglary with Steve as the guide. And here's the thing, because Steve had already robbed the mansion once before, this isn't just burglary. It's burglary, second offense, which means higher penalties, less sympathy, and a much bigger sentence. For organizing and participating in not one but two full-scale mansion heists, Steve is facing 10 years in prison for burglary, with added weight for being a repeat offender. As we close Steve's chapter, his crimes may not look evil at first, but they stack up fast. He's facing 1 year in prison and a $1,000 fine for trespassing into restricted mines, 90 days and a $2 million fine for unauthorized construction that rewrote the overworld skyline, and 4 years for reckless endangerment after letting an entire creeper horde explode inside a mine. But the big one? 10 years for orchestrating not one but two mansion heists, proving this blocky builder knows a lot more about breaking and entering than crafting and surviving. Steve may be a hero to some, but in the eyes of the law, he's a serial offender with a diamond pickaxe and no permits. That was it for Steve, Henry, and Garrett. If you want to see more chaotic heroes face the courtroom, click the video on screen now.